Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of Quick Slants. Parker Thune, Jesse Crittenden here as well. Got a couple storylines from Oklahoma practice as we get closer and closer to the beginning of the 2024 season for the Sooners that we're going to dive into. First, want to remind you all, Jesse wrote a really good story about J.J. Hester earlier this week. There's a lot of good content coming from the OU beat in general right now, not just us. But everybody that covers Oklahoma, guess what? You can find them on the Autograph app. You can use the promo code Boomer to download it for free. You got to go to link.ag.fan/boomer. Link.ag.fan/boomer. Use promo code Boomer. Autograph is where you can earn rewards just for interacting with Oklahoma content. You can read stuff from us. You can read stuff from all the other fine folks on the beat, John Hoover and his guys at Sooners on SI, among others. It's all there for you on the Autograph app within the Oklahoma community. So again, that promo code is very simple. It's Boomer. Now, Jesse, first and foremost here, let's talk about this cornerback group of the Sooners, because I think we all have been operating under the assumption that if healthy, Woody Washington and Gentry Williams are going to be your two starters. The Sooners brought in Des Malone from San Diego State to help buttress their depth. Jacoby Johnson is a year older and a year wiser. But it was none of those four guys, nor was it outstanding freshman Eli Bowen that Brent Venables called the most consistent cornerback through 2 weeks of fall camp on Tuesday. It was Kani Walker that earned that label from the head ball coach himself. Now, Kani Walker has played quite a bit of football through his first 2 years at Oklahoma. We've seen him here and there. He even drew a couple starts in 2022. But I think there was a bit of a surprise factor for most folks hearing that about Kani Walker, of all people.
Yeah, no kidding. I think you would have thought of, you mentioned some of those names. I think you would have thought of at least 4 or 5 other names that Brent may have mentioned. But Parker, I don't know about you, but you do those scrums and those availabilities with Brent long enough that you kind of learn when there's an aside like that you kind of take notice of it. Brent drops some stuff like that every now and then. I took notice of that because I think there's something to that, and it's made me kind of think about this cornerback room as a whole. Parker, I mean, obviously Woody Washington he's played so much football, he's going to get one of those spots. You mentioned Gentry. If he's healthy, he's going to get one of those spots, but Gentry being healthy isn't a given. We saw that last season. It's part of why Kani played 428 snaps last year, man. It was the 8th most on the defense, the entire defense. I didn't realize he played that much football last season. He played a ton of snaps. And so, you start looking at, well, you hope obviously Gentry's healthy, because if he is, he's your number 2 guy at cornerback. But what if he isn't? What other guys do you look at? I think Des Malone, we got to talk to him on Tuesday. He's a guy that's played a lot of football over at San Diego State. So maybe he's a guy in the mix, but you look at the other options, Parker. We know that someone like Kendall Dolby has played a lot at Cheetah. So how much is he actually going to play at cornerback? You mentioned Eli Bowen. Brent Venables has raved about him, but he's also saw time at Cheetah. Also, he's a true freshman. How much is he going to play? So I think this cornerback room, there's some freshmen that you could look at. So I think it's an interesting cornerback room to look at. I also think we learned last year that they needed other guys to step up as Gentry was hurt. Can Gentry stay healthy this year? And is Kani a guy? I don't think he's high on a bunch of fans' radars, but is he a guy that's going to play a lot this year, whether or not Gentry Williams is healthy or not? I don't know. It's kind of an interesting room to look at.
Yeah, well, and if there's one guy that you want to be hearing good things about and good reports on from the head ball coach himself in that cornerback room, how about the guy that's 6'2", 200 pounds, that has always been regarded as one of the freakier dudes in that cornerback room? Now, it's never been a question of the physical tools for Kani. It's always been a question of technique, mentality. Cornerback, you got to have that dog in you to be able to play that position effectively. And there have been times over his first 2 years where Kani's gotten exposed a little bit. But this is what I remind everybody every single year when fall camp rolls around, and guys like a Kani Walker, or even a Zack Schmidt, for instance, as we get ready to turn the page, when you start hearing glowing reports on guys like that, And there are so many folks that their instant reaction to that is, we've seen all we need to see from those guys. What are the odds that they're actually going to make a meaningful contribution? Well, Jesse, dudes get better year over year. That's not always the case, but it does happen. I mean, it happened for a guy like Justin Broyles, right? Where he's an afterthought. Isaiah Thomas is a great example in recent years, too, where you're an afterthought one year and then the next you're in the lineup. And then the year after that, you're a cornerstone contributor. And so, yes, it is possible that Kani Walker has just gotten that much better and has the chance to factor into the cornerback conversation in a big way.
Yeah, no, and I would just add, I think if we've seen anything from this coaching staff, they value experience. They value time you've spent on the field. Now, obviously, the only way to get that experience is to spend time on the field. But Kani Walker's entering, I mean, he's heading into his third season in this system. He was in the top 10 in snaps last season. So again, are there other names in the room that might be sexier? Are there other names in the room that I think fans and maybe even I am higher on in terms of their potential? You can't deny that Kani Walker actually, in terms of this system and this coaching staff, is the second most experienced guy. He's only second to Woody Washington. So I think that's notable, and I think Brent shouting him out was notable.
Now, I dropped some real interesting notes at OUinsider.com on the kicking competition earlier today. I will remind you all we are running a promo through the end of Friday in which you can grab a full year of OUinsider.com membership for less than $3 per month. And in fact, less than $25 in total. You will pay 24 bucks and change. You will get a full year of membership. All you have to do is go sign up today at OUinsider.com using promo code SEC24. That's all caps, SEC24. Numerals 24. So that is where you can get the full scoop on what's happening on the practice field between Zack Schmidt, Tyler Keltner, Liam Evans in that competition. But from everything I've heard, Jesse, it would seem that Zack Schmidt has gotten better. Zack Schmidt has gotten more consistent. Maybe he left the door open a little bit for Tyler Keltner in spring, and Brent Venables named Keltner the front runner for the job in late July. But from everything that I've continued to hear on what Zack Schmidt's doing, some of which we've gotten to see on the practice field, that's a guy that has gotten a lot sharper spring to fall.
No, and Parker, look, and I noted this in my practice notes from the open portion on Tuesday. Zack Schmidt nailed a 55-yarder in practice, and it looked like it could have been good from 60 or more. You didn't see moments like that the last two seasons. I mean, you really didn't. Not moments like that. And I think it's important to note now, look, Zack Schmidt has drawn the ire of a lot of fans, and understandably so. You look at his last two seasons. I mean, he's 26 to 39 on field goals. You need better production. There's just no way to get around that. But this was an offseason where we saw this coaching staff deliberately make efforts to make this a kicking competition. They brought in Tyler Keltner. They brought in Liam Evans. So, and you mentioned Brent Venables said Keltner was the front runner heading into fall camp. So all of that being said, if Zack Schmidt wins the job, that would give me more confidence in him because he's facing real competition. They brought in guys to face off against him. And again, to the earlier point, you can't deny he's an experienced guy. He's spent the last two seasons as the starting kicker. So I think you have to trust this coaching staff because there's clearly been an openness to replace him. And maybe that's been the push that he's needed. I honestly thought that was one of the most standout moments of Tuesday was seeing him nail that field goal. So, and I think you would probably agree that nothing's decided yet, but if that's the kick that he needs, I think that's an encouraging thing to hear.
One more thing, Jesse, before we wrap up this installment of Quick Slants. What does it mean for this offensive line that Troy Everett is so far ahead of schedule that he's already practicing, albeit in a limited capacity, with the team?
No, look, it's huge. I mean, he's the guy that was going to be the acting starting center during the spring before he got hurt, obviously, and obviously Branson Hickman wasn't in town yet. When you look at this offensive line, I'm higher on it than most, but you can't deny they're going to be relying on some guys that haven't spent a ton of time on the field, and they're going to be relying on a group of guys or on groups of guys that haven't played a ton of time together. Troy Everett's a guy that saw snaps last season. He's a guy that's been in this system. So I think it's just consistent like with everything else. I think when you look at this offensive line, you can't have a shortage of guys who have been at Oklahoma and have seen time on the field. And obviously, just personally for him, it's encouraging because there's been a real question about when he would come back. So even if he's not a full participant, the fact that we saw him on the field in pads going through stretches and warm-ups is encouraging. That's just one other option. Even if it's Branson Hickman or somebody else that wins the starting center job, it doesn't hurt to have depth, doesn't hurt to have experience depth, and that's encouraging for his prospects and how available he could be this season.
And there's much to be decided at that left guard spot as well. I think it's pretty well understood that Fabechi Wiwu has the right guard slot all but locked up. Left guard, there's still a competition to be had there. Garen Hatchett will be heavily involved. You may see Heath Ozaida involved in a major way at that spot as that competition rages on throughout fall camp. But no doubt, the more experienced options you have to fall back on, the better, especially when you never know what your recourse might be if one of your starters succumbs to an injury. Always useful to have guys on that second team like Troy Everett, like Michael Tarkman, that are not only experienced, but also offer some positional versatility. Again, folks, OUinsider.com is the place to be throughout fall camp and on into the season. Sign up by Friday because you get 75% off your annual subscription, less than $25 a month for a full year of OU Insider when you sign up with promo code SEC24. For Jesse Crittenden, I am Parker Thune. We hope to see you over there on OUinsider.com. But if not, we'll see you next week on this here YouTube channel for another installment of Quick Slants. Take it easy.